Our guest is Greg Moore, editor of the Denver Post. Greg is an Ohio Wesleyan graduate with a major in journalism and political science. He's been editor of the Denver Post since 2002, but prior to that, for 16 years, he was editor of the Boston Globe. Since coming to the Denver Post, under Greg's leadership, the Post has won 4 consecutive Pulitzer Prizes since 2010. Greg, when did you decide on a career in journalism? And how did your liberal arts education play into that?
Oh, good question. I discovered journalism when I was a sophomore. And that's a little early for deciding on a way of life in college. But I had a great professor, really inspired me. He wrote our textbook, so I just thought, this guy's really smart, I'm going to listen to him. I got an internship that sophomore year. That was when Richard Nixon resigned, and lots of people wanted to get in journalism because of Woodward and Bernstein, and I was one of them. So that's how it started. And I've used all the tools I acquired during my years at school. I started my own newspaper at Ohio Wesleyan. I worked on the student newspaper. I interned at the community paper. So I got a chance to do leadership stuff at a very young age. I got a chance to write a lot, and it just carried over with me for what has now been 39-year career in journalism.
Do you think that liberal arts graduates make good journalists?
I do. Why is that? Well, I think part of it is when you go to a liberal arts college, you dabble in a lot of different disciplines, so you learn a little bit about a lot of things, which is what a journalist has to be able to do, and do it fairly quickly. But in addition to that, I think kids who go to liberal arts schools, particularly smaller schools, get a chance to create organizations. They get an opportunity to lead groups. They tend to play sports, so they get a chance to be the captain of the field hockey team and things of that nature. And those kind of leadership skills, that level of curiosity and broadness, is really what defines a journalist.
Has a liberal arts education had impact on other areas of your life?
I discovered that there was a lot about the world I didn't know. That's what I discovered when I went to Ohio Wesleyan. One of my good friends, his name was David Brandeis, and it turns out that his grandfather was Louis Brandeis, the Supreme Court Justice. I had never really heard of him. And I went home with him for a break, and he took me to Brandeis University, and there was a statue of his grandfather. I was like, wow. I'm really elbow to elbow with a lot of privileged kids who come from a lot of different backgrounds who just want to be friendly, and so I learned how to make friends with people that from different backgrounds and economic stratas. That was just incredible. I learned about the world. I went to school with kids from Venezuela and Iran and people who had been in London and things of that nature, and so I became a lover of travel. I became a lover of good teaching. I had great professors who focused on details. My history professor focused on little details that you would not normally focus on. One of my favorite is sort of talking about Rutherford B. Hayes and who was his wife, like on a Jeopardy question, and I just go, Lemonade Lucy. I know that. I know that because Professor Jennings taught me that kind of thing. And an eye for detail is one of the great things that defines a story in journalism, and I learned that at Ohio Wesleyan.
What advice would you offer today to a student considering a career in journalism?
I think it's very important to learn about a lot of different things, and that's what you do at a liberal arts college. So I would say learn something about history and the humanities and philosophy, learn something about marketing because you're probably more likely to be working on your own, being your own brand, being an entrepreneur. So learn a little bit about business. And I would also say learn something about data, how to use data, how to present it, how to analyze it, because increasingly people are looking for that smart take on things. But the idea that you as a journalist growing up today, you're going to go work for a television station or a newspaper or a radio station for 30 years is probably not realistic. It's more likely that you're going to be your own brand. You may do your own a video show or what have you, but be confident that you have something of value, and that's what I think you get from a liberal arts school. You get the experience and you get the confidence to do it on your own.
Thanks so much for joining us today.